Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Common Ground webinar, a part of our Common Ground webinar series. My name is Erin Tocchini, Chief of Staff and Director of Events at the Music Business Association. Before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. Planning for Music Biz 2024 is well underway. More information on that can be found at musicbiz2024.com. Also, prepping for the Trust and Safety in Music Symposium that will take place in New York City in January. More information on that and how to register can be found at musicbiz.org. Please be sure to introduce yourselves to the chat and change those chat settings to everyone so all attendees can see your messages. If you have any questions for our presenter today, please submit those via the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. He will get to those by the end of the presentation. Without further ado, I welcome John Ivers from BandLab. John, it is all yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Erin. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Be sure to turn the sound on. All right. Well, yeah, thank you so much for to the Music Business Association for having me, and also a little bit of flexibility to move this talk a little bit earlier in the day. I'm on a last minute trip over to BandLab HQ here in Singapore. It's about 1 a.m. for me. So to all attendees, please be patient. If I twist some words, I am doing my best. All the same, I'm just really excited to be here and share about BandLab and our approach to AI and maybe what AI means for music creators going forward. Yeah. So anyway, a little bit about me, who I am, what do I do? My name is John Ivers. I'm the product lead. I'm the lead product manager for BandLab's music creation team. I am lucky enough to build tools which empower musicians and creators to make and share music. In addition to what I do at BandLab, I think it's probably important for this talk for you all to know that I am, in fact, also a musician. I've been a lifelong music creator. Before BandLab, I worked as a composer and a sound designer. I play a number of different instruments, though, funnily enough, I think clarinet has always stuck with me. Yeah, and I'm part of the generation of creators that grew up, using an inbox one and producing music in the box. I think that was really life-changing for me. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I have a master's in music composition from the legendary and now sadly defunct Mills College, famous for some things like inventing the modular synth. And yeah, in my free time, really like to tinker, hack things together. Most recently, been spending time with some circuit bending projects and building synthesizers. But for the past 7 years, I've been working with BandLab. It's going to be 8 years coming up in February. So it's been quite the journey and really been leading the charge on their music creation tools. So let's talk about BandLab a little bit. Some of you might have heard about BandLab. Hopefully some of you have used it. I think perhaps some of you are also hearing about it for the very first time today. So I'll do my best in explaining what we do. BandLab's vision ultimately is just really simple. We believe in a future where there are no boundaries to making and sharing music. We were founded in 2015, and it's a next generation social music creation platform. And we're on a mission to break down the technical, also geographic and creative barriers for musicians and fans. It's free to use, and we really build a mobile first cross-platform DAW, and also DAW stands for digital audio workstation. So things, software that people make music in, and social network. And it unites really the entire creator journey in one place, from learning to make music, creating music, sharing their music, and building their musical communities. It includes a suite of features and tools for creators, right, to make share music, connect with fans, earn a living, and even you'll see top the charts. Couple of headlines here, 2023. I feel like every year at BandLab, I say like, oh, it's been a great year at BandLab, but 2023 has been a particularly good year at BandLab, I think. We were named Fast Company's #1 most innovative company in music this year, which I'm very proud of our team and our community for. As a next generation music making platform, our user base is actually 80% mobile, which I think for some of you in the music production and creation space is probably surprising. And more than 60% of our user base is actually under 24. So a lot of young people, Gen Z emerging artists using our platform. Our biggest audience is still in the USA, despite actually BandLab being headquartered in Singapore, which is where I am right now. I would say like a real key ingredient to the success of BandLab, and I talk about this a lot with the team, our community, is really the accessibility of our tools, and in particular, our music creation tools. Um, First up, we see, I think this is because you can just search on your phone and get an app to play music, but we see a lot of aspiring creators who are actually beginning their musical journey on BandLab. And to that end, we try and provide like really simple, powerful, and especially easy to learn tools to start making music, regardless of the skill level. We have some cool tools or instruments like Looper, which, lets you start creating a beat with a swipe of your finger. And I'll demo a little bit later, but our AI-powered song starter actually helps creators instantly start making music by generating infinite, unique musical ideas to help kind of get something on the page and begin their creative process. Um, Across our creation platform, Studio really is at its heart. Studio is packed with everything you need to sound your best. Creators can access a library of over 100,000 loops and one-shots, and that really helps making your first beat be sort of an effortless task. Our auto pitch and effects products, which are in Studio, are some of the most popular across the platform. Creators can craft their signature tone, and even share their effects presets with other creators. We have a lot of vocalists in the platform. I think similar to how the phone changed the modality of, the best camera you have is the one in your pocket. For a lot of young creators, like the best microphone is the one they have in the pocket. It's really important to capture inspiration wherever it happens. And yeah, in addition to just the musical collaborative communities across BandLab, even with things like effects presets, we see users sharing them among themselves. The whole Reddit and Discord communities dedicated to sharing vocal presets. But it's not all about beginners. For more experienced producers, we see BandLab being used really, like I said, as a studio in your pocket to capture ideas wherever it strikes. I like to say we live in a poly DAW world. So even on desktop, like a lot of producers, musicians might have multiple software applications that they produce with, depending on what mood or what mode of production they're in. And BandLab really is the perfect tool to sketch out your musical ideas. Um, Finally, BandLab is fully collaborative. Up to 50 people can work in a project together. It's cross-platform and web-based, so I can start a project on my phone in Studio, and I can open it up in my browser and continue working on it, share with people. On the browser, you can even collaborate in real time. So creators can send out a link and actually work in real time on their projects with other creators. You can think of it in some ways kind of like collaborative documents, like Google Documents, but really for the music creation space. Um, from bedroom beat makers, genre-bending showstoppers, we have a lot of indie creators and emerging chart toppers. BandLab empowers creators to expand their potential. We see more and more artists starting with BandLab and eventually now emerging at global stars. And that's personally just really exciting for me to see, artists start on BandLab and have great success in their careers as music creators. David, he's one of our most popular BandLab creators, and actually he recorded his breakout hit "Romantic Homicide" on his iPhone, and I think he even like went into his closet and recorded the vocals on his iPhone and used BandLab presets. And I think that's really amazing that we're in a world where somebody can record, their voice on their phone and it end up being a global mega hit. We have a lot of other really exciting emerging artists coming from the platform. Lil Tyler, thanks so much. Curfew, Diego Gonzalez, Lil Hero. There's many more, but even with just a subset of these creators I'm showcasing the screen, and they're making huge impact. They have over 50 million monthly active listeners in Spotify, with over 2 billion streams. And what's, again, especially exciting is that they're young. The youngest age is 15 and the oldest is 28. So let's talk about AI and music a little bit. This is AI is kind of a hot topic. And let's look at some of these headlines here. I think if you've read about AI in the music space in the news of late, a lot has been focused on some of this tone transfer technology. Um, Really, most notably is I would say now infamous Drake fake song, which really caused a big stir. But we also saw a lot of cool artists like Holly Herndon, in preparation for release of one of her albums, she made a tool that her fans could generate vocals and her own voice with on a web page. Grimes even has launched her own tool for a similar purpose. And some of these headlines also make us question, like, what is the role of computers in music, and where's the place in copyright in all of this? And the fact that computers can now generate infinite variations of melodies and be released in the public domain challenges a lot of the core tenets of copyright. Can computers generate copyrightable material? And I like to think that perhaps with music without humans might just be audio, right? So another perhaps more positive use case, at least I loved this. Paul McCartney was able to use some cutting edge AI tools, in particular some of the vocal isolation or source separation to extract John Lennon's voice and mix and remaster a previously lost Beatles song. And I think that's a really exciting and powerful narrative about how, music is not only defining some sense what the future is, but our relationship to the past in music. An interesting fact is that AI in music, it's actually already pretty mainstream. So a recent study by Ditto Music claimed that 60% of users are already using AI in some way in their music making process. And that said, like, everything's really getting larger. There's more people, there's more music creators, the models are getting bigger, there's more data, there's larger use cases, and there's larger worries about everything that's happening in the AI space, especially in like relation to creators' journeys and what it means for music. If ChatGPT, being the fastest growing product in history, is any indication, AI really is all the rage right now. I think the fact that I'm here speaking about this in music 5 years ago, I never would have thought that that would have been the case. However, I would say not all things AI are actually new in the music space. We see recommendation engines have been used to great effect across many markets and products. I know people probably have generated playlists that they like to listen to music with. That's very common. Nearly every video conferencing tool, and perhaps Zoom right now, is doing it to my voice, has a built-in vocal denoiser. The technology is really enhancing quite quickly. It's running locally on our devices. Sound classification and labeling, 5, 60 years ago might have been more cutting edge in terms of its use cases, but now it's really common and can even run on device, run on a phone. And ML-powered mixing and mastering tools have been around and used by producers for nearly a decade. There's some really interesting plugins that help you in your DAW of choice quickly, get some engineering, add some compression, make your tracks sound good. And there's a myriad of really great AI-driven mastering tools to help people, master their demo tracks, get stuff sounding good to share. However, as we gain access to, I think the big thing here is really a lot more compute capabilities, and as well as I think the topography of like our model architectures and what different models there are expands, more and more powerful tools are emerging, what I might label here as cutting edge. So similar to the now famous ChatGPT, but language models can actually be used on sample-to-sample music generation, right? So just as audio and the digital form is just a sequential set of numbers. Large language models can actually be used to generate those in sequence, and sometimes a very coherent way. Language models are able to work with symbolic data like MIDI, and really, this all works because music is a language. Those same language models can be applied to musical applications with great effect. So with enough data, machines are able to understand musical form, style, technique, and even the timbre. So there's a little, I have generative audio and music, but I also say regenerative because I think this is a kind of a big use case going forward. But a myriad of techniques can also render audio, well, actually going back to generative, in addition to just generating songs, but a myriad of techniques can be used to render audio in the forms of one-shots or new instruments. So recordings can not only be cleaned up, but regenerated and fully restored. So imagine singing into your phone and receiving studio quality recordings, or for example, lossy audio uh, packet drops during a video conference, low sample rate audio, different bit rates can be upsampled with ease, and models can actually accurately and in a way that's really hard to tell from a human was if it's originally recorded this way or not, fill in the sonic gaps and the missing data there. Um, with tools like source separation, fully mixed songs can now become unmixed, though high quality stems can be extracted from masters. And actually using that same technology, the very same models, it's possible to remove previously applied audio processing. So say I have a distorted guitar track that I amped, I can, with the right data, get back the clean guitar sound with great accuracy and reamp it. Again, what is our relationship to music in the past and the future? The same technology again being used to record, to enhance recordings, so both dynamically and tonally. So I'm thinking of like, making sure your vocal levels are nice, or if you're turning away from the microphone while you're recording, those things can be fixed in a really effective way, or even retoning in the example of the guitar amp. Uh, Another some interesting emerging technologies are really like the boundaries, like intermedia transformation is what I call it. So the boundaries between different musical media formats are becoming more and more obscured. So I think imagine taking a picture of notation and converting it to audio recordings, or a really powerful tool for producers audio can be converted to MIDI or back to notation, right? So it's easier to work between these different mediums that were previously, it took a long time to learn. So a little bit about the voice now. There's a lot of things under the category of advanced vocal processing, but voices are used for a lot more than just music, and I think that's why we see really an immense amount of innovation in this space in particular. But as of now, our voice can become any voice or instrument with tone transfer technologies. So we see, in the case of the Drake fake, you can sing and have it sound like different voices. That's both, can be used in very creative ways, but also instruments. There's existing models and tools where you can take your vocal recordings and turn it into a violin, right? That sounds really convincing, or a myriad of other instruments. Singing models also exist in themselves, which can enable creators to do things like type text and have it sing along to their music, which was really mind-blowing when I saw some of those demos from different companies. So it's again like a totally new modality of music creation, and I've even seen demos that can, take a song and regenerate the vocals to different languages. So say a song that I recorded in English, a model can take that and actually translate it to Spanish. I'm singing Spanish in my voice, And that's allowing some people to do things like localize their music for different global markets in an effective way. So there's a lot of creative possibilities. I think, I look at that list and I get a little afraid, but I also get really excited as a music creator myself about all the possibilities. But what does it mean when there's so many creative possibilities? Sometimes it's exciting, sometimes it's scary, sometimes it's both, right? So deepfakes, I'm a little scared of what AI can do in the deepfake space, but at the same time, those same tone transfer technologies are, for example, being used in the video game industry so that players can speak in the voice of their character, their avatars. And that actually has had a drastic impact in reducing the amount of online abuse, especially in multiplayer settings. So that's a really positive use case of the same technology, right? But what does it mean specifically for music? And the short answer is a lot. And I think that's, a good answer. But the long answer is it's complicated. And yeah, I am sorry to disappoint at this moment, but as much as I would like to know how all of this plays out, I just don't. And we'll talk about that more. But little personal story here that reminds me of the AI landscape. But I was getting my hair cut the other day because I don't want to show up to BandLab HQ looking shaggy. And my barber asked me what I do for a living. I told her I make music tools for musicians to create music. It's a phone app. You can do it on your computer. It's collaborative, the whole little BandLab spiel, right? And she responded that computers ruined music. And I really think about that a lot, because for me, computers made music more accessible, like more engaging, and actually more viable as a career. So, I talked about that, like getting an Inbox One back in the day, and all of a sudden I can plug it into my computer. I can start recording. That wasn't previously possible. So I could compose, record, and complete orchestrations all by myself. And the interesting thing is some of those skills I developed, I eventually went on to do this like with real orchestras. I got to work with some orchestras later on in my career. And I think that really speaks to perhaps some of the sentiment around AI and music, but how creators will use it in empowering ways in their creative workflows. So, what does it mean to be an AI empowered creator? So music really is going to become much more accessible. Looking back again in the past, unlike the early days of previous technological revolutions, none of the tools I just mentioned require a huge amount of capital investment to use, right? ChatGPT, though like $20 a month, right, is still very affordable and very different than, say, buying machinery for a factory during the Industrial Revolution, right? Some of these models certainly require significant capital to build. However, I would say with the rapid pace of progress seen in the open source community, as well as model architectures that are emerging that can actually produce great results as smaller models with smaller data sets, many AI-driven musical technologies are becoming more accessible to tool builders as well. So just as we saw with the advent of computer music, AI is going to empower more people to become musicians. AI tools will make it easier to get started. They're going to help people practice more effectively. And additionally, it's also going to be easier to be educated about music. We see some great analogous examples of meaningful education tools being developed with the use of AI. I think Khan Academy has some really interesting AI-powered educational tools. And we'll see those too with music. People will learn faster, they'll get better at their instruments faster, and they'll be able to start creating, right, without having to learn so much beforehand, or perhaps even about what a DAW is, right? So there's going to be also new modalities of creativity, right? Just as we saw in my reference to composing in the box, like starting to work and produce in your computer, AI is going to introduce different ways of musical creativity. Producers might collaborate with AI systems to produce music, generate ideas, riff on their ideas, add variations, harmonize their melodies, and vice versa. There's going to be a lot of curation and a lot of experimentation with how people are working, right, in their creative workflows. And the Kurosawa's going to use tools to create novel sounds. There's going to be new sounds that will become popular that we haven't heard previously. And that may sound funny, that like AI generated sounds are going to be popular, but right, looking back at history, somebody invented the violin, right? Technology, so the piano is a masterpiece of technological innovation. Synthesizers were previously unheard sounds, right? And now they're wildly popular. Drum machines, all these things. People are going to do creative things with the creative possibilities they have. And another really exciting part of this is that, there's going to be supercharged creative workflows. It's just going to be less boilerplate when you're making music. We can record in the phone and sound like you're in the studio. Be able to quickly prototype ideas. You can get your mix dialed in, get your mastering going, and focus on the creative workflow without having to worry about making sure that things sound good, right? I think that's what most musicians want to focus on anyway. I can't tell you how many times I've been recording and, recorded the good take on my phone mic or on the imperfectly set up mic placement, right? Only to go set up everything again, make it all perfect, and do a million takes and never get it right. AI can actually help creators like hone in and utilize that perfect take and do it in a way that, is of high quality, that is release ready. Let's think about how Copilot has made, developers more effective as engineers and also more knowledgeable about their code bases. The same analogy can be used for creators. And this might not be an obvious one, but I think it's actually a really important one that like, the people like BandLab who are making tools for creators are going to make better products. So it's projected the AI market's going to grow 20 times by 2030 to $2 trillion. And here's the key, is that most of that's going to be in productivity tools that organizations use to service their businesses rather than actual consumer-facing AI applications. So our product teams, our designers, researchers, engineers are going to be more capable, and the result will be better products for end consumers, right? So at BandLab, we're already seeing this transformation. We have new systems to gather and organize user feedback as soon as a feature is released. We just rolled out our drum machine on mobile, and I have it set up so that when people are leaving reviews in our embedded system, that like our team knows what they think about it. They know what they find confusing, they know what they like, and within a 2-week period, we're able to make meaningful updates that are responding to those requests. Our research and prototyping practices have become more efficient, much more effective. We're able to catch bugs faster, fix them faster. And as with BandLab, when you're servicing tens of millions of creators monthly, these sort of things really make a big impact. So the pond, this is my slide to take a sip of water and a breather because we're about halfway through. Everybody take a deep breath. Enjoy the nice pond here. Yeah. I like to think of music as an ecosystem, and perhaps we can think about it as a pond. So a healthy pond is really rich with life, an immense amount of biodiversity. It sort of hangs in this precarious environmental line, right? And it's similar with AI and music. Like we don't want AI to throw off the balance of our musical communities. We want to have a healthy and productive musical ecosystem. And we want members of our musical ecosystem to be empowered, right? But also protected. And I think that's extremely important. So ultimately, BandLab is, I think it's really important to say we're not a tech company that does music. We're a music company that does tech. And we're not an AI company, but we're a music company that embraces the power of AI. And this really drives some of our core AI principles, mainly being that like we really want to exalt the person, not the models of the algorithm. Like we should be utilizing this technology to give everyone the opportunity to have their musical voice heard, regardless of their background, education, or socioeconomic status. BandLab really, being on Android, being on mobile has a huge global community. And we've empowered people who, for example, don't have access to computers to make music, right? Just because it's on the phone, the same thing is going to be happening with AI technologies. Our tools are not vending machines, right? They're integrated workflows that use AI to help musicians achieve the results they're after. So our G Suite of creation tools mean that our tools are really built in for human collaboration, right? Again, like is music without the human just audio? So traceability really matters, and we really want to talk about knowing the source, right, of music made with AI, and also our models itself. So our proprietary models are built by BandLab, with BandLab, and for BandLab. Um, Real music producers and creativity involved are every step of the process when we're building our models. And we really want to protect and support creator choice, right? So AI trained on user data should be opt-in and not opt-out. And, you know, we really want to respect, support, and champion everyone's intellectual property decisions, because different people are going to have different decisions or takes on how they want their intellectual property used. And we're in full support of that. So yeah, with that in mind, let's dive into a real world application of AI currently on the BandLab platform. So at BandLab, one thing we know for sure is how difficult it is to get started making music. Writer's block is a real issue for me sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, and definitely some members of our community. And you know, many of them also, as new creators, want help just getting something on the page to start creating with, right? And they don't want to use the same old demo tracks or things that everybody else has access to. They want something unique that when they're complete working on it, they feel like they own it, and it is theirs, right? So with this in mind, we asked ourselves, like, how can we leverage emerging AI technologies to help new creators make their very first project? And then to that end, we built SongStarter, which is a very cute, and I'm very proud of it, unique musical idea generator. It's called Song Starter and not Song Finisher for a reason. And that is because we really give new creators a seed of an idea that they can work with to kickstart their creative journey, but we don't want to automate like the creation of the whole track. That is something that's part of key and critical. We want to support in the musical creative process. So interestingly, this AI system can actually make more possibilities than there are atoms in the universe. So everybody really is getting truly unique results. And SongStarter did exactly what we intended. New users were 80% more likely to share their music if they started with SongStarter. And, you know, saving their music and sharing their music, that's a big step. So, you know, empowering people to make something they're proud enough to say, hey, I made this thing, check it out. That's a really big win for us. And the past year alone, this tool has seen 15 times growth. So it's really catching on with our community. I think we see a lot of beginners on it getting started, and we see a lot of our more experienced producers using it just to get something down on paper and have fun, because it's kind of fun and you can take these ideas and keep making music with it. So while I am going to do a live demo of SongStarter, I think it's worth seeing how one of our creators use it to produce a whole song, because I think it's really impressive. And we'll watch this video here.
BandLab Songcider is a great way to use AI to generate new song ideas. This is what I started with. Once I loaded this project into BandLab, changed the BPM, added some new chords, recorded some vocals. I've been trying to make it easy on you, baby, hiding the shit that you don't need. Did a quick arrangement, and this is the final product. I've been trying to make it easy on you, baby, hiding the shit that you don't need. Trying to make sure that you don't see none of the problems are bullshit. I've been trying to make it easy on you, baby, hiding the shit that you don't need. Trying to make sure that you don't see none of the problems are bullshit.
So we can see with even just a small seed of an idea, it can grow into something like, I think I really like that song, and I find it very musically compelling. So let's dive over into SongStarter. You could all try it out right now, actually, on your phone or in your browser, bandlab.com/SongStarter. You won't get, you'll get a limited number of results until you register for BandLab and log in, but the application is completely free. So it's worth trying out here. So let's get you inspired. I'm going to go ahead and pick a genre here. I'm going to go with ambient. Get started. This is the scariest part of any presentation. So I got the New Age whale. We really like adding these little graphics, sort of evoke something whimsical. I like to think of it kind of like I was thinking a lot about Tamagotchis and little, you know, cute tools that like kind of evoke some sort of inspiration or relationship with, you know, a musical character that you in some way want to collaborate with. But So this is our ambient track here, you can see. So behind the scenes, it generated some music for me. I got about a minute of music here, 16 bars. I also have 3 ideas to choose from. So that first one was actually pretty good, but how about I try another one here? It's really important to have options, right? Because this is part of the creative process, this curatorial process. I have a lot of agency in what I'm choosing here. I can also, change the vibe, right? Which kind of changes the instruments and the templates a little bit. Let's listen to that. So if I'm, unhappy with my results, I want some more, I'm going to roll the dice, get 3 new ideas. I really like that synthesizer. For even more customizations, I can actually, set the BPM, adjust it in real time here, or even transpose it if I'm trying to sing along to it, and it doesn't quite match my vocal register. So real slow, but let's just for fun, try out some of these other genres here. Trap is one of our most popular ones. A lot of hip hop artists on BandLab. Maybe probably one more genre here, and then perhaps lo-fi, and then look at what happens like after I've found something I like. How do I continue my musical journey here? It's thinking. I love those little pianos in there. It sounds really nice. So I'll listen a little more, and then I think I'm going to play with this one in studio. So I have a few options. I can actually save this for later, right? And it ends up in my project library in BandLab if I want to continue creating it at different points. So I can actually collect ideas. But yeah, let's just dive into it. So I found something I like. Now what, right? This is just the start of the process. And yeah, we have a ways to go still. So go ahead and press open in Studio. And right here in the browser, right, I can see the musical idea. And I want, to point out some really important ways that we design the system is that it's actually all MIDI based, right? Because I think, tools that generate audio are not as powerful because say, it's harder to change the notes, right? I want to feel like I can collaborate with this. I want to make it my own. So the power of MIDI is that, once it gets in the studio, I can double click this. I can start moving around all of the notes and customizing it, right? I can, just delete all these off the top and, simplify my orchestration right now. Nice. So I'm gonna just loop this here and, maybe do a little bit of the same thing for these top melody lines, right? Because I kind of want to add I was inspired by this. I think I want to kind of add my own stuff here. So as you can see, we're in BandLab's web studio here. I have all of my MIDI instruments set up. SongStarter has put in some nice effects that already sound really good. I'm going to go ahead and it also has set the key, the BPM, everything I need to get going. I'm gonna go to smart keys. Now I can mash my keyboard and everything sounds good. Maybe I'll do a little arpeggiator here. Add a little swing because it's a little lo-fi, right? And then I can just like record some ideas here. And right there, right, I recorded all my arpeggiators. On top of that, I can sort of slice everything here, loop that section that I like, and I've already got the first 16 bars of my track made. I would say compositionally it's a little busy, but I think the arpeggiator is always a fun feature to use. But I want to point out a few things that SongStarter plays really nicely in the simplicity and ease of use of some of the tools we built in Studio. You know, you can see a lot of people don't know about scales or what key signature it should be, or, you know, we get questions like, what is a BPM, right? And so as a beginner, it's really difficult. And, you know, the difference in the view between, right, this smart keyboard or, you know, this keyboard, I don't know what notes I should play at this moment. Maybe I don't know what kind of chords I can play. I can use our smart chords feature, right? To seamlessly create harmonies. So SongStarter fits really nicely in this creative workflow. It's simplified, powerful, and I think really focused on, yeah, making it easy for beginners to start making music really quickly. I'm going ahead and yeah, save this. And yeah, right here, I got this invite link. I can send it out and people can immediately start collaborating with me. There might be more than 50 views, so I won't drop it in the chat, but yeah, a little insight into how SongStarter and AI is helping musicians, you know, create music, express themselves, and collaborate with each other. So back to our presentation here.
BandLab SongStarter is a great way to use.
Yes, we already got that, yeah. And so really what comes next? So, you know, just as having a USB interface helped me become a better creator, and just as the accessibility of the phone has helped millions of people around the world become better creators, AI tools are going to empower musicians in the same way, who perhaps thought they never could be musicians or creators in the first place. So I think by artfully, ethically, and really effectively utilizing AI within the creative process, BandLab is going to supercharge the next generation of creators. And AI is going to bring out a new generation of superstars and unlock new value for existing incumbents as well. You know, the gap is going to be bridged. And personally, I'm really excited to see what this young generation of creators makes with all of these tools, and to be listening to a lot of new music going forward. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and look at some questions. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate being here and being able to share BandLab. Yeah, again, I have endless energy working on these products and helping people make music. So thank you for your time, and I will stop sharing my screen and look at this QA here. We have a few questions that I hope I can answer. Yeah, so I'll start with Nate Levin. So yeah, even the most basic dolls can be hard for beginners. What are your thoughts about AI and generative UI for custom UX geared towards the person using the product? You know, I don't know if we're quite there yet with the custom UX, but I think especially with language models, we can see a lot of customization. And I don't want to call it chatbot, but maybe more interactive conversations. So imagine you're in the studio and you're like, how do I add effects to this track? and it can point that out, or add effects to the track. Hey, can you set me up a template to make a beat with some loops here, right? And it can actually do that. So I think it's going to be less about the UX is actually going to be the interaction of showcasing where things are and how to do things, and that educational workflow as well. So yeah, that's kind of how I think about those things. Yeah, so Kelly Rodriguez, with the goal of trying to improve creative workflows, how much will the creator experience drive the AI tools coming? That's a good question. I'm going to interpret it sort of as like, musician driven design. So for example, at BandLab, we do a lot of interviews with our customers and our creators. And I've even developed some relationships with a lot of them over the years. And, a lot of what we're doing is not about what the technology can do, how can we productize it? Oh my gosh, AI is going to do this thing, and more in terms of, hey, these people have these problems. How are we best going to solve that problem, right? A good example was like the denoiser on the phone. A lot of people were recording on their phone in noisy environments. How do we solve that problem? And then once we know we want to solve that problem, what's the best way to do it? Perhaps AI can be the best way to do it, or perhaps a classical algorithm or a nice UX tweak or something can be there too. So it's not always, for us, the first approach, but we are really in that creator-driven thing. We're constantly, interviewing, watching people make music with our tools, talking to them. We have a very active Discord channel. We ask them, the types of things that we do, and we also observe it. And yeah, I think so. It's really about listening, ultimately. Like, we want to listen to our community of creators and understand what their needs are, what problems they need help solving, and is AI the right tool to solve that problem? If so, BandLab's going to do that, right? And yeah, through sort of platformatizing those little tools here and there, it actually becomes really powerful. And I think that's where we see some of the larger workflows. Yes, Charles Alexander. Do you envision making voice models available for creators on BandLab? That's a really good question. And yeah, how are you addressing the licensing of these voice models? So it's very tricky at, I think with other people's voices, it's just a very sticky area. And I think the only way we go with that, right, is if it's actually empowering in some way. We're a creator first platform. And if the creator who's creating that voice model, right, is licensing it or something like that, maybe. I really, the main thing is with the voice models, we're looking at more enhancement or cleaning up. So you sounding your best. And I think that's, really where our focus is for our creators. So it's more of the restoration, right? That regenerative process I talked about, so that you do get the perfect take when you're recording, or you do have creative capabilities for harmonizing, right? Or working with your own voice. And I think, yeah, because everybody does have a musical voice, and that's where we kind of sit with empowering, the individual's voices. Yeah. I think Shigari, one second here. Yeah. How do you avoid lawsuits like a creator stealing someone else's music or beat? That's a very good question, because and in BandLab, it's not just like there's the AI side of things, but yeah, when people are making and sharing music in BandLab, there are problems, right, that could arise from people accessing other beats. And to that end, we have actually really granular privacy controls on the platform. So if actually, most of our creators are making music that's just for them in some ways, or they're creating things and they're exporting it, right? Or they're publishing it to the platform. That doesn't mean that somebody else can immediately open the project and remix it. You have to specifically flag, and we actually make it a little tricky that you want to allow other people to remix it. We make it clear that that goes into the public domain, right? If you share your project that's forkable, is what we call it. Other users can open it and remix it and play with it at will. And then there's the collaborative side of things, and that works just like it does in real life. So if I am inviting collaborators and we make a project together, it's kind of up to those creators to decide how they're doing. But those collaborations are typically, back and forth, people who know each other who are working together. So that's, yeah, how we're avoiding that. We also offer, we're compliant with our systems in terms of users flagging problems if something does arise. We have a large community team who's helping and solving those issues as well. So we also stay compliant. So if problems do happen, we're able to solve them quickly. And also we're able to identify bad actors on the platform so that they don't, hurt other users' experience. Yeah, have you faced any backlash from recording labels when it comes to one of your creators appropriating mainstream music? You know, not to my knowledge, and that's just the best I can answer. I personally don't know of any case on that, but BandLab is huge and we have a pretty large team. And yeah, I couldn't say with accuracy, but not, from my perspective at the moment. Yeah, so first, do you have any means of contact for your customers conversations? John Ivers at bandlab.com, or just find me on BandLab, Johnny Bears. Second, do you think AI will eventually replace those within the industry, i.e. session players? Yeah, this is a really interesting question, right? Like, is there like labor replacing, right? Labor saving, I think labor augmenting. I don't think, I'll talk about session players in particular. I don't think they're going to replace session players at all. I think, we see some of those threats, like, for example, were MIDI instruments, really nice sound banks going to replace session players? And it probably has some impact, right? But that's probably more impactful than I think where AI will sit with replacing session players. And in the end, I think it's more labor augmenting, that session players are going to be able to send better quality recordings, are going to be able to work with those recordings, make them match better and have more creative possibilities, right? So that's what, I'm really shooting for, hoping for on our platform, that it's, empowered and augmenting their capabilities. And I think a lot of the AI tools, we look at, why is ChatGPT so cool, for some people? Because it's conversational, because you are working with it in this way. And it just doesn't replace like people completely. It helps you do processes faster or more effectively. And I think in the same way, though, the applications will be totally different. A lot of musicians, there'll be more people making music. There'll be, as the world, global community grows, there's more of a market for making music. People are going to be making better music. So yeah, it's going to have some impact on definitely the speed and the quality at which we do things, but I don't think I see the current tools as a fully labor replacing technology. How are you? Okay, so Nate, how have you thought about beginners possibly not knowing the right prompt to write to learn BandLab better? I'm not sure what you mean by the right prompt to write to learn BandLab better. Yeah. You know what? I haven't thought about that too much at the moment. Yeah. Um, with some of the interactive learning stuff, we're actually really not there. So there's no real prompt engineering happening on the platform. But yeah, with Song Starter, you can actually enter a lyric or text. And what we do is we just match, the vibe of that lyric mostly to the genre. And we see a lot of, yeah, people are sort of describing the vibe and the mood and the genre of the music we want, but we see really in songs in particular the most success coming from just like, oh, I'm interested in this genre, or exploring genres or ideas at the moment. But yeah, that is something I will think about if we get to some of those language model empowered educational tools that I'm sure will be popping up across many tools in the future. Yeah, great question. Yeah, does AI take away authenticity and creativity from artists if they're using it to create a song, right, or produce it, etc.? Yeah, that's a really good question, Harvey. And I think about Aaron. Yeah, I think about that a lot myself. And at least with the way the current tools are and BandLab's approach to it, I think it's very authentic in that there's a curatorial experience and that, it's again, it's called song starter, not song finisher, or it's co-pilot and not autopilot, right? So I think maybe using an Alex example here is better. Like I also have done some development and coding in my life, and I appreciate some of the tools to help code better. But is it going to architect the application? I think, at thinking about that top level of how the different aspects of your code talk to each other, what it's doing, what is the form of it, how it's moving, how it's progressing, what is your audience, who is it for? A lot of these things are still going to be really up to you and your curatorial process, the agents you have in working with the systems. And, there's certainly going to be people who I think will make inauthentic music with AI, but who am I to define authenticity or inauthenticity? It's really up to the person creating that music and their community of musicians. So I think the possibilities um, are pretty endless, right? And yeah, it's a little bit of choose your own adventure at this point. I can't say a lot of the models currently struggle with memory, right? So it is some of those things like progression over time and understanding longer form music is really, that's really what it's all about, I think, and also building your community. So I hope that answered a little bit, right? It's a little bit harder to find, but a lot of the tools are just going to be, again, empowering creative workflows that I think a lot of people will find authentic for what they're doing. It's a great question. Yeah. Wow, no more questions. Yeah, and yeah, thank you all for the great questions and yeah, all of your attention. This was a super fun session, and yeah, I just am grateful to be able to talk about some of the stuff going on. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, John, and to the rest of the team at BandLab for this great presentation. As a reminder, this session, along with the back catalog of previous webinars, are available musicbiz.org. Also, be sure to follow us on socials at musicbizassoc for all upcoming events, including Trust and Safety in Music, MusicBiz 2024, and 2024 webinars. From Music Biz, I wish you all a safe and joyous holiday season and new year. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks all.